المقاومة لا تستطيع أن تقف مكتوفة الأيدي ويكشف ظهرها.
ليس حزبا لبنانيا ولكنه فرقة إيرانية.
Good afternoon. It is Monday, June 3rd. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. The Imam of Quds Mosque in Saida says that assailants opened fire on him while he was heading for prayers, but he escaped unscathed. Senura calls for the formation of a government of peaceful individuals and not fighters, rejecting the involvement of Hezbollah in the Syrian war. And Syrian warplanes pound the embattled town of Qusaid as a regime offensive backed by fighters from Hezbollah try to retake the town from rebels enters its third week. The Imam of Quds Mosque in the southern city of Saida said that assailants opened fire on him while he was heading for prayers, but he escaped unscathed. Sheikh Mahir Hamoud told Voice of Lebanon Radio that the assailants fired around 20 rounds from a passing vehicle after he went out of his house in Quds Square to head for prayers. Hamoud hinted that sympathizers with the Syrian opposition or any party seeking to ignite strife could be behind the assassination attempt. He is a close ally to Hezbollah, which has sent fighters to Syria to support the regime of President Assad against rebels seeking to topple him. In a similar incident, assailants opened fire on the vehicle of Islamic Unity Mosque's Imam, Sheikh Ibrahim al-Braidi, in the Bekaa town of Kublies at dawn. The GMC envoy, which was parked near his house, was partly burned. Al-Braidi also has close ties with Hamoud. 4 people died and 29 others were wounded this morning in the northern city of Tripoli after a sudden eruption of violence between the rival neighborhoods of Beit Tabbani and Jabal al-Muhsin over the weekend. Ahmed Sabih was shot on Sunday in the rival neighborhood and died from his wounds this morning. Sayed Antoun from Zgharta was struck by a bullet early in the morning while crossing Tripoli's Malouli roundabout and died at noon from his wounds. 2 people were also wounded in the northern city from gunfire, bringing the total number of wounded in the renewed clashes to 29. The clashes have not returned to the heights they reached last week when intense fighting and shelling rocked parts of the city. Overall, 30 were killed and more than 200 wounded last month in the clashes between both neighborhoods. After a weekend pause in fighting, shooting between the rival neighborhoods renewed Sunday around 7 p.m. Future Bloc leader Fouad Senura is calling for the formation of a government of peaceful individuals and not fighters, and he rejected the involvement of Hezbollah in the Syrian war. He says, "We are keen on exerting every effort to form the new cabinet of peaceful individuals and not fighters." This was during a ceremony at the municipality of Saida. He said neither Hezbollah nor any other party should participate in the ongoing fighting in Syria, and he called for the adoption of a new modern electoral law, saying the security incidents rocking the country had compelled his bloc to approve the extension of Parliament's mandate. Lawmakers extended on Friday the legislature's term for 17 months after the rival parties failed to agree on a new law and following fears that the deteriorating security situation would prevent holding the polls based on the 1960 law. Gulf states could take measures against Hezbollah in the near future, according to the head of the 6-member Gulf Cooperation Council, known as the GCC. They decided to look into taking measures against Hezbollah's interests in the member states. This is according to GCC Chief Abdul Latif al-Zayani, who told reporters at the end of a ministerial meeting in the Saudi city of Jeddah. He gave no other details on the nature of the measures or the interest to which he was referring. Bahraini Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Ghanim al-Buainain said that nobody could cover up Hezbollah's actions in regional countries. At the opening of the meeting, Buainain had called for a serious stance and united action to end the attacks on the interests of the Syrian people and give them the right to choose their political regime. Bahrain, which currently holds the GCC's rotating presidency, has branded the movement a terrorist organization. Syrian warplanes pounded the embattled town of Qusaid as a regime offensive backed by fighters from Hezbollah to retake the town from the rebels enters its third week. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported a fierce overnight onslaught, both on the strategic town near the border with Lebanon and slightly farther north in Dab'a. Dab'a, the site of a disused military airbase that has been seized by rebels battling President Assad's regime, is still partly under insurgent control. The The Britain-based observatory, which relies on a wide network of activists, medics, and others on the ground for its information, said there were numerous dead on both sides, but gave no breakdown. An estimated 94,000 people have been killed in Syria since the protests began in March 2011, and it quickly became an armed revolt when the regime cracked down hard on dissent. Britain will decide whether to arm Syrian rebels only after planned peace talks involving President Bashar al-Assad's government and his opponents, according to the British Foreign Minister. William Hague told Germany's Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung daily in an interview published on Monday that the priority was U.S. and Russian-led efforts to get the warring sides to the negotiating table, but said he was not overly optimistic. Hague said it was not too late to arm the rebels, despite the risks involved, given that the 2-year-old war in Syria had no end in sight. He said Russia, a longtime ally of Syria, agreed on the need for a political solution, but the question was, how much are they prepared to influence Assad? The United States and Russia announced last month they were jointly trying to convene an international peace conference on Syria, but have set no date for the talks in Geneva. Coming up next, in her first post-surgery red carpet appearance, Angelina Jolie says she is moved by public support. Stay with us. We've got the details when we return. Welcome back. The Turkish Prime Minister has blamed extremist elements for the riots that have swept his country in recent days. Recep Tayyip Erdogan also accused the main opposition Republican People's Party playing an active role and working together with extremist elements. He said intelligence services were also investigating foreign links to the demonstrations. His comments come as he prepared to fly to Morocco for the start of a tour of North Africa, with commentators expressing surprise at his decision not to cancel the trip. Meanwhile, the Associated Press quoted the local Dogan news agency as saying that police fired tear gas at a group of protesters in an area close to Erdogan's offices in Besiktas neighborhood of Istanbul as anti-government demonstrations stretched into a fourth straight day. The protesters responded by hurling back stones. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has named British-educated political independent Rami Hamdallah as new prime minister in a move that was immediately condemned by Gaza Strip rulers Hamas. A little-known figure outside Palestinian territories, Hamdallah is a professor of linguistics who has been president of Al-Najah National University in the West Bank's largest city since 1998. He will replace Western favorite economist Salam Fayyad, who quit in April and formally leaves office this month. Hamdallah will be expected to serve until a unity government is forged with Hamas on the basis of commitments made by the leaders of the two Palestinian enclaves last month. Efforts to heal a rift since Hamas's 2007 seizure of Gaza from Fatah have often foundered in the past, largely over their ideological differences about the policy toward the conflict with Israel. Hamas swiftly rejected Hamdallah's appointment, calling it illegal. Iran's nuclear program was expected to top the agenda at Vienna's meeting of the 35-nation governing board of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Fulfilling those expectations, the closed-door session began with the IAEA Director General saying there had been no progress in efforts to clarify concerns about Iran's nuclear program and that talks with Tehran for some time had been going around in circles. The member states had been scheduled to discuss the agency's report presented to the member states on May 23rd, which said Iran was pressing ahead with the construction of a research reactor that Western experts say could eventually produce plutonium for a nuclear weapon if Tehran decides to make one. In another development likely to worry the United States and its allies, the UN International Atomic Energy Agency said Iran had added to its capacity to refine uranium, which can also provide the fissile core of a bomb if enriched to a high level. Now for news around the world in brief. The two men charged with the murder of a UK soldier on a London street are due to make separate appearances in court. Michael Adelbalajo arrived in Westminster Magistrates Court, having been discharged from hospital, having undergone treatment after being shot by police in the aftermath of the attack on drummer Lee Rigby on May 22nd. Michael Adebayo, who has already been charged with murdering the young soldier, is due to appear at the Old Bailey via video link. Former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi's defense lawyers are due to conclude their arguments in the trial in which he faces charges of paying for sex with a minor and abuse of office. Berlusconi is accused of paying for sex with former nightclub dancer Karima Al Mahroug, alias Ruby the Heart Stealer, when she was under 18 years old. prosecutors have asked for a 6-year jail term as well as a lifetime ban on holding public office for the media magnate who denies all charges and says he never had sexual relations with Al-Mahroub. A fire at a locked poultry slaughterhouse in northeast China killed at least 113 people, with several still unaccounted for, the local government said, triggering online outrage at the high death toll. The fire broke out just after dawn near Dewi in Jilin province, the provincial government said on its official microblog. More than 300 workers were in the plant when the fire broke out, with employees reporting hearing a sudden bang and then seeing dark smoke. And Australia's Deputy Prime Minister asked if it is time to reconsider becoming a republic after Queen Elizabeth's reign ends. Wayne Swan was speaking at the launch of a book of essays entitled Project Republic, Plans and Arguments for a New Australia. In the last referendum in November 1999, Australians rejected a constitutional change to replace the Queen as head of state with a president, despite years of media reports suggesting a majority of the electorate favored the change. Oscar-winning actress Angelina Jolie says she was moved by public support after she revealed she had a double mastectomy to reduce her high risk of breast cancer. Speaking at the London premiere of husband Brad Pitt's film World War Z, Jolie said she was thankful that her actions had brought the issue into the public arena. Jolie, whose father is Oscar-winning actor Jon Voight, said her chances of developing breast cancer are now just 5%. Her doctors estimated she had an 87% risk of breast cancer and a 50% risk of ovarian cancer.
Oh, I get moved to talk about it, yes.
Really? How are you feeling?
I feel great. I feel wonderful, and I'm very, very grateful for all the support. It's meant a lot to me.
Does it feel good to be back on the red carpet?
I'm very excited for Brad, and I think it's a really fun film, and my boys are around tonight somewhere, so they're enjoying it. So it's a lovely thing. I've been very happy just to see the discussion about women's health expanded, and that means the world to me. And after losing my mom to these issues, I'm very grateful for it, and I've been very moved by the kind of support from people. Really very grateful for it. Yes, I'm feeling fine. Thank you.
This is the woman I've always known, and I have such respect for her when she's faced with a problem, and we've known this was coming for some time. She takes it by the horns. She learns her options, and she makes her decision of what's best for her. And the fact that she would not be frightened of this, what she'd have to go through to do this, to take this specter away from our family and ensure that she'd be there longer for our family and my kids, and I wouldn't have to ever, certainly because of this, explain why they couldn't see their mom anymore. I get very emotional about it. It means the world to me, and it means something. I did not expect what a tipping point, how much it would mean for others to hear her stories, others who might be wrestling with the same thing and not knowing all their options, or trying to learn about their options, or trying to fight for their options, period.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Let me remind you of our headlines. The Imam of Quds Mosque in Saida says that assailants opened fire on him while he was heading for prayers, but he escaped unscathed. Senura calls for the formation of a government of peaceful individuals and not fighters, rejecting the involvement of Hezbollah in the Syrian war. And Syrian warplanes pound the embattled town of Qusaid as a regime offensive backed by fighters from Hezbollah to retake the town from rebels enters its third week. Your first week headlines, here they are on Future Television in Beirut. I'm Yumna Naufal, and I wish you all a good night.
المقاومة لا تستطيع أن تقف مكتوفة الأيدي ويكشف ظهرها.
ليس حزبا لبنانيا ولكنه فرقة إيرانية.